Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's sessions related to the call for expressions of interest of EU for Business Connecting Companies project. My name is Laura Velasco and I'm project officer at EU for BCC. Today I'm here with my colleague Orsolia, financial officer at this project as well, who will be later on explaining you details on the budget related to this call for expressions. We are aware that all of you are familiar with the project already. For this reason, we don't want to stall too much into this small and brief presentation. Just a few words regarding the project. EU for BCC is a project that was launched by the European Commission with the aim to support sustainable economic development and job creation in the EIP countries by helping SMEs to grow. The actions implemented within EU for BCC has been organized on a sectorial basis in order to allow a more strategic approach. The 5 selected sectors are bio-organic food, wine, tourism, textile and creative industries. The idea is that by focusing on these sectors, we will be creating stronger alliances between EU and EIP business. Now, we are now getting into the concept and the content of today's call. The goal of this call is to attract chambers of commerce from the EUROCHAMBRES network that have a strong focus on the relevant sectors and capacity to be a multiplier force. We will be creating a consortium per sector, so in total there will be 5 consortia that will be helping EUROCHAMBRES to implement actions through the organizations of study visits, twinnings and B2B matching. The implementation will be done through 59 subgrants for the 5 sectors. How is this distributed? Well, we have, let's say, allocated 11 activities into the wine sector and 12 into the other remaining 4, bio-organic, tourism, creative industries and textiles, with a maximum amount of €60,000 per subgrants. The beneficiaries of these subgrants should be BSOs and SMEs, but of course the BSOs that will be profiting from this will be different from the chambers of commerce that are members of the consortia in order to avoid conflict of interest. The total budget is for these 59 subgrants is 3.5 million. And this leads to an estimated budget for each sectorial consortium of around €200,000. This amount has to be a little bit adjusted based on different criteria, and Orsolia will walk you through this in the budget part. The activities are expected to be implemented both in the EIP countries and in Europe. A little bit of practical information regarding the consortia and how alliances can be created. Each consortium actually needs to have at least 2 chambers of commerce, being one coming from Europe and the other coming from the EIP countries, although it is allowed to join up to 4 bodies. Both European and EIP chambers of commerce are allowed to participate in more than 1 consortium with a maximum of 2 consortium. There is something here we need to specify, and is that if a chamber of commerce wants to participate in 2 different consortia, then these 2 consortia have to be targeting 2 different sectors. For instance, you can participate into a consortium that is targeting the bio and the organic food, and one consortia that is targeting the wine sector. But you cannot participate in 2 consortia that are actually targeting, for example, textiles. In the event that we find 2 consortia with, let's say, 1 common chamber of commerce, and these 2 consortia are participating within the same sector, both consortia will be disqualified. So we strongly recommend you to double check this internally with your partners in the application and make sure that this regulation and this criteria is well understood and followed. It's important to keep in mind that all the CCIs should be registered in PADOR, regardless whether they are coming from Europe or from EIP countries. And the timeline to implement the activities is 20 months that will start counting from the date of the signature of amendments of the Ukraine contract, which at this stage is foreseen to be happening in October this year. The timeline of the following steps, just for you to have a clear idea. As you well know, the deadline to submit expressions of interest is July 17th at noontime, Brussels time, meaning that you will have to keep in mind the time difference. We also strongly recommend you not to wait until the very last day to submit your applications, because sometimes there are technical problems, or perhaps too many people are trying to upload information on the website, and this might slow it down. So if possible, try to do it one or a few days in advance. For any question that you might be having regarding the process, the content, or any other matter regarding to this call for expressions of interests, we have been publishing a document called FAQ on our website. I will be showing you later where exactly you can find it. This document is being updated on a weekly basis, including new questions received through our email address. We will be sharing this email address as well later on. So for any question that you might have, we encourage you to send an email to this email address as soon as possible, because on the 23rd of June, we will stop issuing clarification. The last version of our FAQ will be published on that very week, on the 26th, which is Friday. And from that moment onwards, we will not be allowed to reply to any question on a private or a public level until the closure of the deadline on July 17th. So please keep in mind that any question you might have, better to send it to us as soon as possible. In September, we will be publishing and informing the chambers of commerce or the members of the consortia the final decision. And at the beginning of October, we expect to be signing the sub-grant agreement with those 5 consortia. The idea is that in the second part of October, the sectorial consortia, the 5 of them, will be fully operational. Now, we are going to get into the application itself. We have tried to include here as much information as possible, and we are going to walk you through all the information you are going to be finding on the website, so that you will not encounter any difficulty or technical issue during the process. Now, all the applications must be submitted online through the call system. The call system can be found on the website submissions.connectingcompanies.eu. Once you insert this address into the search bar, you will find, or you will see, this screen. The website is really easy to use. You will only have to keep on scrolling down to access to the different parts of the menu. So this is the home part. If you continue scroll down, it will be a little bit of information about our project. And then afterwards, if you continue scrolling down, you will get into the registration part. Before I forget, here you have the email address where you will have to be submitting all your doubts and questions regarding this procedure. Do not worry, because you will also find this email address here at the very last part of the website if you continue scrolling down after the registration. Now, as I was mentioning, if you continue scrolling down, you get to the registration part, where actually you will have to be inserting your name, surname, organization, and email address in order to complete an initial registration. Once you're finished, you have to hit I grant approval and then click I want to register. In the very next minutes, you will be receiving an email that, well, this is the confirmation that you will be receiving once the process is completed. If you have filled all the requested spaces within the application, and this is the email I was talking about. Please keep in mind that in order to fully complete this registration and to start with the application, you will have to click in this blue address to proceed. Now, it is important to keep this email outside and perhaps to share it with the members of the consortium, because every time you would like to access the application, you will have to use this very important link. Why? Because we have actually designed the website and the application process so you don't have to submit or complete the submission in one step, but rather you can actually start today, insert some annexes or some information, save and submit later, and continue tomorrow, or let somebody else within the consortium to continue this application. For this reason, this link is really important because it will lead you to the interface where the latest information was updated. Well, when you click into that link, you will get this confirmation from EUROCHAMBRES verifying that actually the registration has been completed. And afterwards, you are free to get into the submission itself. Now, the documentation and the information requested in the submission is really easy to see, to find. First of all, you have to pick the activity sector you would like to apply for. You have a scroll down menu, which allows you to pick one among the 5 different sectors. What happens if actually you would like to participate into consortia and one of them, of course, is, for instance, interested in textile and the other in creative industries? This means that you will have to complete this application submission in twice. You will have to first select creative industries and upload Annex A, B, and C only related to that application. And once completed, you will have to start again, selecting the other activity sector and again uploading information of Annexes 1, A, B, and C, once again only related to this other sector. Now we are going to be walking you through what you're going to find or what you are expected to include into Annex A, Annex B, and Annex C. First of all, there are templates and information regarding these 3 groups of annexes on our website, connectingcompanies.eu. So you only have to click on this link to find all this information. Although actually we are going to be including here some screenshots of those specific annexes so that you have a clear idea what you will be finding there at the moment you start the submission. Again, here we have just mentioned what I was saying before, that there is a save and submit later button that will help you to actually start the application right now, but continue it later on at a later stage. Only one important thing to keep in mind. Every time you want to save something but you don't want to submit, please don't forget to click on the green button, save and submit later. Whilst once you are ready to go and to submit the application, once actually all the annexes have been uploaded, you will have to click on the blue button, which is complete submission. Underneath these 2 buttons, actually, you can see the transaction history that will be recording it on Brussels time zone. This will allow you to make sure or to confirm that actually your application has been submitted on time. Please remember the blue button, because all the applications that do not click on that one will not be taken into consideration and will not be evaluated. So, which are the documents that have to be completed and uploaded within those annexes A, B, and C? In Annex A, which we have defined or called expressions of interest, you will have to be uploading 5 annexes unified into a unique PDF, meaning that you will have to fill up the information of Annex 1, Annex 2, Annex 3, 4, and 5, and then put it together in a PDF, as the system only allows you to upload 1. If actually you go into the website we shared before and try to get into the templates, you will see that actually there is an Annex 6 and an Annex 7. These two documents are only for the applicant's reference. And here we would like to emphasize the importance of having a look at Annex 7 before even starting the application, because this will contain information on the specific targets that we are expecting to see within this consortium application. We have also included some screenshot of this, so I will come back to this later. Now, this Annex A is related or will request information on the composition of the sectorial consortium with specific information to be filled by its applying chamber. And again, here there will be a declaration PADOR that will have to be signed by each and every chamber of commerce and will have to be signed by them. Again, we are not going to verify that actually the chambers are registered in PADOR, but this is something that the European Commission will be doing it. So please ensure that you and all your partners within the consortium are aware of this and are registered accordingly. Annex B, we have defined it as concept note, will have to be completed by the lead chamber of the consortium. Again, it includes 7 different annexes, which will have to be unified as one unique PDF and submitted. Within these 7 documents, you can find a request to include a summary of the proposed activities with a maximum of 1 page, a motivation letter of the applicant, and some specific details related to sustainability, implementation, and communication. Again, we have included some screenshots so you could see what you are going to be finding on those templates. And last but not least, in Annex C, we are going to be talking about the budget. This is slightly different because you are requested to actually upload the Excel format instead of the PDF. Please keep in mind that this Excel budget, you also will find a template on our website, has 3 spreadsheets, so make sure that you fill them all up before uploading this document. Orsolia will be showing you how these 3 spreadsheets will be looking and what you will have to be including on them. And now we are getting into the screenshots. So into Annex 1, as we were mentioning, is a specific information about the applying consortium and the chambers that are participating within this consortium. It includes information about the country of origin, also information about the sector that they have chosen, and whether there is any participation in previous related projects such as East Invest 1 or 2, etc. Actually here you can see one screenshot, but it's actually 3 pages. And this document will have to be signed by the authorized representative of the applicant chamber. Annex 2 and 3 are shown in this slide. The first one is related to the definition of affiliated entity and the description of its affiliated entity. And in the third one, we are talking about affiliated entities statement. As you could see, this is a template. You only have to input the information when it's requested, so very straightforward and easy to fill up. Annex 4 is the declaration PADOR to be signed by each Chamber of Commerce, and Annex 5 is the mandate of the applicant chamber to EUROCHAMBRES. Now, we have left some spaces in yellow just to remind you that this will have to be edited according to the information of the consortium and the leading applicant. So once you have completed filling annexes 1 to 5, again, save as unique PDF and you can upload it. This is a screenshot of Annex 7, the one we were mentioning that you will not have to upload because actually there is nothing to fill in, but you will have to keep it in mind when it comes to, for instance, completing Annex B, which is related to the activities you're intending to organize. Now, if you go to the column that is marked with this yellow arrow, you can see the targets. These are the expected targets of the project and will give you ideas on which target and which, let's say, goals you should be inserting into the proposal. There are 2 pages. This is the page 1. And this is the page 2. And to make it a little bit more clear, what we have done is to synthesize them in a couple of slides, including all those targets. Here, what we are giving you is some guidelines of what we are expecting to see as a result once the activities have been completed and all the relationships have been made. It is important to keep in mind that of course, the fact that you put more goals into your proposal will not give you a competitive advantage as long as there is not some coherence and realistic budget that follows this proposal. So sometimes it's better to make sure that there is let's say coherence on set rather than just, let's say, focus on quality rather than quantity. Let's put it that way. So again, here you have some information and guidelines of what we are planning on seeing, and this continues into the next slide. And if we get into Annex B, here you will be requested first in the first part of Annex B to include a summary of the proposed activities. We have included also a maximum number of pages, so you really know how in-depth you really have to get into each part, especially in Annex B. And we are including here some indicators or ideas for you to keep in mind. So for the number of activities in the wine sector, we are expecting to see a minimum of 11 activities, whilst in the other sectors, we are expecting to see around 12 activities. Again, we are expecting to see coherence and a realistic budget rather than a huge number of activities that will not make sense to perform given the number of staff and budget. In terms of the distribution of activities within each sector, we are expecting to see around 1 or 2 study visits to EU countries with around 20 relevant participants, 5 business meetings with 80 relevant participants, leading to 20 promising partnerships and business cooperations, and 4 or more BSOs supported through twinning to provide new and better services. Again, we strongly recommend you that any number you put in the activities or as the indicators will be aligned with what will be shown in the budget. From Annex 1.2 to 1.7, in the section B, there is no template, but we are here including some instructions in terms of content and maximum length so that you could really join with your partners of the consortium and elaborate these documents. So first, again, you have the motivation of the applicant with some background information, briefly outline intervention, expected outputs, and impact of the let's say activities or actions to be taken. Also a strategic concept that we recommend to include specific topics such as gender equality, the transfer of know-how or technology, impact in job creation or poverty reduction, and how this might impact or benefit rural areas and their businesses. In the implementation approach, again, we are asking you for more detailed information about the methods of implementation, let's say the role of the different actors, and how the monitoring will be arranged and follow up during the implementation. In the next document, sustainability of the actions, we are asking you to describe the impact of the actions you intend to implement, how this will be financially sustainable, which support you will be obtaining, and any added value element of the actions. In the sixth document, you will be talking about the visibility and communication plan and how you're going to be reaching to those target groups, which marketing tools you will be using, etc. And in the 1.7, you will be seeing some information about the budget that basically requires you to fill Annex C, which is the next one, and work with the different worksheets. And actually, this is the third annex and the last one, the budget. And for that reason, I'm gonna lead the floor to my colleague Orsi, who is gonna be explaining you more details of this specific part.
Hello, everybody. My name is Orsi, and I work with Anna and Laura on the EU for BCC project. I am the project financial officer, and I will try to explain to you a little bit the budget in order for you to understand how it is supposed to be calculated. Okay, so we have a total of 232,800 euros, which is split into 3 sections: human resources, travel, and other costs, services. Regarding the human resources travel, you have to calculate the gross salaries, including the social security charges and other related costs to the staff, either technical or administrative support staff that you are going to engage on this action. The costs need to be calculated on the basis of real costs, salary sheets, in accordance with the EU indications. So you have to take into consideration that you will have in total 365 calendar days, from which you have to take away the weekends. Let's say 52 weekends per year. You will have to take away the holidays, illness days, and other banking holidays according to each country. You have to consider a certain number of days that each staff will work during this action. The number of days you have to indicate it into the number of units column. You will have to put the unit value, which will be the gross salary divided by the 215 days that you will remain with after you calculate the calendar days minus all the non-eligible days. And then you will have to calculate the total amount of staff cost for each line, for the technical and for the administrative support staff. Please make sure that you are doing the formula, the calculation manually, because the document, the Excel sheet, does not calculate it automatically. You will also have to pay attention that you cannot exceed the 180,000 euros per consortia. Regarding the travel costs, these need to be calculated upon the basis of an average amount after you do a market research to see how much a flight costs from a country to a country, while the subsistence allowance cannot exceed the maximum per diem rate published by the European Commission. Regarding the other costs, these have to be considered if needed and deemed necessary for the translation, interpretation, conference, and visibility action. As you can see, there's also another part in the budget, the financial support to third parties. This does not have to be calculated you do not have to take it into consideration in your proposal because this will be handled and paid directly by EUROCHAMBRES. If we go to the next slide, this is the justification of your budget. It means that for each budget item, you have to clearly demonstrate the necessity of the cost and how does it relate to the action. So once again, in the case of human resources, you have to take into consideration the daily rates. So you have an indicative number of 215 working days per year that you will have to take into consideration. So you will divide the gross salary, the gross annual salary of each employee that you are going to engage into this action and divide it by 215 days in order to have the daily rate of the salary. The per diems for missions and travel has to be an average rate. The per diem cannot exceed, once again, the official rate published by the European Commission, while for the international travel, you have to take at first into consideration the average cost, while at the end you will use the actual cost. For conferences and seminars and translations, this cost is determined based on market price. If we go to the next slide, this is an example of a classical budget sheet that reminds you that the co-financing is 5% and the financing of the European Commission is 95%. Thank you, and I hope it was helpful, and please don't hesitate to contact us for any further questions.